Hi there and welcome. Today I want to present a little quilt trunk show of all the quilts that I've made in 2023. Now quilting is, I'll get into that in just a minute, but it is a hobby that I had back about 12 to 15 years ago. And that was prior to starting my business. So what I've learned as an entrepreneur is that you need to have a hobby or it's very easy to get burned out. And so this is the hobby that has taken me away from that. And in fact, I want to tell the story of this very first quilt that got me back into it. And this is what's called a disappearing 9-patch. You see it's kind of an interesting design, and I'll pop up a full-size image of this quilt. I was watching YouTube. I watch a lot of YouTube, and I ran across this one day. I happened to have these colored squares in my closet that I just didn't know what to do with, and I found it inspirational, pulled out my old sewing machine, and I got to work, and this was the first quilt that really invigorated everything that has happened ever since. Now I love that pattern so much that I decided to do it again. And I found, I just have to say a big huge shout out and a lot of thank yous to all those quilter YouTubers out there. So one of the first ones that really got me going was Donna Jordan from Jordan Fabrics. And so with Donna, then I watched some of her videos, and so I decided to buy some fabrics from her store. And so interestingly, this is the same pattern. You see this black and yellow. This is the same pattern as the last one we just looked at, but it's just in a different color. And then sometimes I like to do some interesting things on the backs of my quilts too. So I figured I'd share that with you. Interestingly enough, I was inspired to quilt many years ago. My grandma was a quilter, but interestingly, I never quilted with her. I actually never saw her sew. So I learned about how to do sewing. I had a friend teach me how to thread the machine years ago. And I learned quilting from reading books and watching like television programs. Now that we have YouTube, that has really changed everything, and I know that my skills have really increased a lot over this past year, and I'm seeing this right here with watching these other quilts. So those were the first two quilts of the year, and the third quilt is right here, and this one is called Mountainside. Now this is a pattern by Vanessa Gertzen of Lela Boutique. And I will again put up the whole image here. I found this very interesting to sew and a lot of fun. And it was the first time I actually did some of my own quilting. I just did some, when I say quilting, I mean to sew all three layers together, the back, the batting, and the top. And there's a lot of different ways of doing that. You can be more intricate. And this is the first time I did anything that was even remotely interesting. But, so I was pretty proud of myself for that one. Now this next quilt is because I saw a fabric that I liked from Benartex. And I don't actually know what it's called, or the collection. But I was really inspired. You got this camping type of print, and I decided to put it together with these bear paws. And so I call this Bear Tracks. I actually designed this quilt layout myself, and I like how it looks like there are two bears that are walking side by side along this quilt. Okay, I wasn't done yet. So the next quilt, okay, this is kind of a fun story. This fabric line is called Seashore Drive. It's by Sherry and Chelsea for Motive Fabrics. Now, I didn't actually know what a honey bun was. It sounds crazy. What's a honey bun? Well, I ordered some because I was like, ooh, this looks like a great deal. So I ordered these honey buns online. Well, I find out it's these 1.5 inch long, or 1.5 inch width strips. And I was like, okay, I've got all these like strips of fabric, what am I gonna do with it? So I started to sew them together, and then I got this new ruler. It was called a strip tube ruler from Cozy Quilt Designs. Again, I saw some videos from Donna Jordan. So if you're a quilter, you're gonna know all these names. But I just experimented, and so this is what I came up with. This is the front of the quilt right here. And then I'm going to show you what the back looks like, because then I still had some of these left think I might have had to order like a second round of them. But then there we go. So you can see I decided to do just some interesting designs and to use up all that fabric and give it a shot. So that was fun. That was fun. Now I'm actually presenting these quilts in the order in which they were finished, not the order in which they were started. So sometimes it takes me a while. I can get something started and I want to I just need to sit on it for a little bit for how I'm going to do some borders or edges or things like that. And this is one of those. This one, I had this fabric collection. I believe it was called Midnight Magic, which is from April Rosenthal for Moda Fabrics. And I decided to, it's all orange and black. It's like a Halloween kind of candy kind of thing. And so the name of this one, I decided to name it Candy Corn. I don't know who I would say is the designer. It's just a single block that's repeated over and over again. And then of course I added a couple of borders, but it's interesting how much longer that can take. And I actually did a little bit better quilting on this one too. So that was Candy Corn. I don't know how many were in here, but maybe it's like 5 or 6. Now this next one, I actually really like this one. I mean, I have varying degrees of how much I like each of these other quilts, but I have to say I actually really do like this one. This one is it was a bundle of fabrics plus with some that I also collected with some other fabrics. Anyway, yeah, it's not just one collection is what I'm saying. And this is, the pattern is from, I believe it's Home for the Holidays. It's a book by Sherry and Chelsea, and it's mostly different patterns for like Christmas quilts. But when you don't use Christmas fabrics and you just use these cool, you know, grays and yellows and pinks, oh my, then it really comes out different. So I'm calling this one Garden Stars is this one that I'm calling this one. And as I mentioned, that a lot of times quilts are started far sooner than when they're actually finished. This is a perfect example. I was inspired by a blog post from Moda that was called Letters to Santa. And the whole idea was that you could create a quilt based on like the different words that Christmas means to you, and then with some filling in of some certain things. Well, I decided I wanted the letters to be a little bit bigger. I ended up creating my own alphabet, and I create some of my own block designs too. So this right here is my Letters to Santa quilt, and I really like it. I had a lot of fun developing the pattern, I learned a lot. I learned about foundation paper piecing, and then I designed some of the blocks in here, so, or just kind of put them together. This is foundation paper piecing with some of these trees. I did actually make the design for the Nutcracker that's shown on here. And that was a lot of fun to do all of this. So this is my Letters to Santa quilt. And then of course I had to do something, and I had so much fabric and I had a bunch of trees already done. So I did do interesting things on the back just to make it fun. Now I do have to say I am super terrified to wash this quilt with all of this red. I'm terrified that it might turn pink, which is going to be a theme we're going to find out next. So there we go. That is the next quilt, and we have 3 more to go, and that will be, well, 3 more and an honorable mention. So this next one, I was inspired by the Fat Quarter Shop. They were doing a video talking about this, and so it's these little squares and then mixed up with some big squares. And so I decided to pull out all my Christmas fabrics and put these together. And this is just a super fun, easy project that went by very quickly. Now, when you don't wash a quilt like right away, it'll stay nice and crisp, but I actually like my quilts to be a little bit fluffy, so I decided to wash this one, except for I washed it on way too hot and I forgot to put any color catchers in there. So I ended up washing it a few more times, and it's not terrible there, but there are spots where the red bled into the white, and so it's less than ideal. So now you know why I am super paranoid to wash the Letters to Santa quilt. All right, next one up. This one was a block of the month project. Now, I had never done this before. I think in the old way of doing it, you would go to a quilt shop and they'd have, you know, like one block a month that you could have like a whole thing. Well, now there's YouTube. And so I can connect with creators, I can download their patterns, I can do all of that just from the comfort of my home. And this is actually the second block of the month project. I'll talk about the other one in just a second. This one started in March, I believe, and ended in October. Now, the name of the pattern was called Sunny Patches from Corey Yoder, but she was using bright and sunny sheery fabric. I decided to use grays, grays and blacks. Can't really call it Sunny Patches, so I'm calling this one Starlight. And this one was certainly a skill builder. It was a lot of fun to make, and I just really enjoyed the process. I enjoyed the process of having this mystery block every month and to see how that would all come out. Next up, this quilt was definitely a challenge. And it was a challenge not, it was a challenge in a number of different ways. First of all, the original pattern was from Vanessa Gertzen of Lella Boutique, and it was called Fracture. However, I wanted to change up some of the dimensions, so I started with that. Then I wanted to change up how it was set, so I was on to that next thing, and there were just a lot of ways that I made this my own. So now I'm calling it Fractured, and I really like it. I mean, I like how it came out. I think it's pretty sharp and stunning, a little bit patriotic. Interestingly enough, it's the last quilt that I finished this year, but I did start this one much sooner. There were lots of decisions that needed to be changed or made. Now, I do want to talk about my honorable mention here. It's up on my design wall right now, and that was the first block of the month that I ever participated in. This one's from Erica Arndt. And, starting in January, so then there's 12 blocks, but there was two different sizes. You could do a 12-inch or a 6-inch or both, and I decided to do both. And then now I'm messing around with how I want to, how I want to connect all the pieces together. Interestingly enough, I don't usually, you can see from all of this, I like just kind of the color palette that I go with, but being like bright colors aren't usually, I don't know. I mean, you see there's a little bit in my quilting, but I wanted to do something that was a little floral and fun, and also there's just some fabrics here that I am just not even sure, why did I even buy that? Like, I don't know, but they seem to be working together. It's got a whole lot going on right now, but we'll see how it comes out. So I guess, I guess I'll probably post up a picture on Instagram or maybe a short or something when that whole quilt gets done, which, as I've mentioned, could be, you can start one thing here and it could be the last thing you finish, but we'll see what happens. So anyway, this is my fun activity, my fun hobby that I do as part of, like, just to try to have some downtime, to have the thing that is my own, and also a different way of being creative. So I'd love to know, tell me about your hobbies. Are there any other entrepreneur quilters out there? And no, I do not want to turn this into a business. I'm just saying, I'm not going to do that. I just do this for fun. And anyway, thank you for watching. I look forward to seeing you in another video.